they work shit hours. The part-time stuff, you sit for.
That's what I get to do tomorrow. We just happened this afternoon.
Oh no. Oh.
Up at our cabin.
Ooh.
Our tree.
You going up there?
Fell on the neighbor's.
Oh no.
They don't know what tree love.
Oh no. I don't know how much damage. Yeah, they've had a
Tree
lot
lawyer.
worse. They've had a lot worse. I have a friend who's up with her family in Michigan, like way up. And they went skiing, like they've got quite a lot of stuff. Although I think it's even colder up there.
I took the dog out, and the dog was just like, nope, right back up.
I'm
It's okay.
really thoroughly enjoyed sitting home.
It's for us,
with
too.
blankets on, watching a movie with my wife and Christopher.
Yeah, I saw pictures you posted something.
We just huddled up. It's like that's. We had our neighbors over. Brenda makes the party bread, the Swedish bread. We had our French neighbors over for coffee and bread. It was a nice day. I'm almost like I would almost.
Which one?
Oh, I have.
You got a pen? Oh, great, great. Okay, I'm going to put a couple here so they're all three.
Yeah, but the thing is, what they do to get to the point where they make that money, it's not an easy climb. I mean, it's at least 10 years in part-time if they're lucky.
He left because I think the number one thing was his big job.
Yeah.
So he worked a lot of Christmas and a lot of Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah.
We always had to adjust, which is fine. I'm happy to adjust. I don't care.
Yeah.
But he's so happy because it's like Christmas tomorrow. They're picking up my mom at 10:30 and they're coming to my house. And we don't have to worry about him. A lot of times we have to like leave early so he can get back, because he would come and change my house. So he's been free to. He's been in a couple different things. Mostly he Christmas. Oh, yeah. Well, I don't know which one. I can't remember the miles.
Well, it's the mile from. It's the number of miles from Indiana, so.
Yeah, but I don't remember what. Because I go from Greensboro to Youngstown all the time. I can remember the
Greensboro is.
It's 2:15.
Yeah, I think it's 193 or 209.
It's in there.
And then Youngstown's 215, 216, 218.
If there's any more out there.
Is it the big interchange or is it the interchange over by Lordstown?
Maybe do this for 60.
That's fine.
I get off at 680. The big one.
Okay, that's 218, yeah.
That's a big one.
Yeah, that's actually, it's interesting to see some of that stuff. Like being involved in a lot of this stuff, I never thought that I would be in charge of half the stuff I am.
Anthony, we do a light check real quick.
It's a project that I just was doing basically a sprint work for the last 2 months. This is probably a dollar project.
Check, check.
So it's like,
Happy holidays, everyone. It's okay? All right.
everyone. I'll take it. I'll take 60. That's fine.
No good way to do that. No. The organ at St. Anne's is sinking, like the temperature is sinking on pitch. What? The brass tried to tune to the organ at St. Anne's. By the time they started playing him, it was in a different thing.
Oh, jeez.
The hall with boughs of holly, fa la 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 la. now our gay apparel. La 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 la. Troll the ancient Yuletide carol. La 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 la. On this cold but beautiful Christmas Eve, we welcome you to West Shore Unitarian Universalist Church, where we are building a beloved community that changes lives. Tonight, we celebrate the holiday season with rituals of song and story and candlelight. It is good to be together, people of all ages, people here in the sanctuary, people joining us from home, to deepen into the spiritual meanings of this time of glad tidings, hopeful possibilities, beautiful peace, and fa-la-la-la-la. Fast away the old year passes, la-la-la-la-la-la-la. Hail the new ye lands and crosses, la-la-la-la-la-la-la. Sing joyous all together, la-la-la-la-la-la-la. Be the summer, wind and weather, la-la-la-la-la-la-la. As Unitarian Universalists, we believe truth is larger than any one book or way. Religion and science go hand in hand. Integrity requires freedom of conscience. Diversity is something to celebrate. In the struggle for justice, we come alive. Our highest aspiration and calling is love. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever path you are on, you are welcome here.
How short the daylight hours have become. How gray the skies, how barren the trees. A damp and chilling wind has gripped my mind and made me gloomy too. But there is that in me which reaches towards light and laughter, bells and carolers, and knows that my religious myth and dream of reborn joy and goodness must be true. Because it speaks the truth of older myths, that light returns to balance darkness. Life surges in the evergreen and us, and babes are hopes and saviors of the world, as miracles abound in common things. Rejoice and join in the gladness of Christmas.
In those days, Caesar Augustus declared that everyone throughout the empire should return to their own cities to be counted. Since Joseph belonged to David's house and family line, he went up from the city of Nazareth to David's city called Bethlehem. He went with Mary, who was to become his wife and who was pregnant. Once they arrived, Mary gave birth to her firstborn child, a son. She wrapped him in swaddling clothes and laid him in a manger because there was no room for them in the inn. Nearby, shepherds were in the fields guarding their sheep at night. The Lord's angel appeared before them, and they were terrified. But the angel said, "Don't be afraid. Look, I bring good news to you, wonderful, joyous news for all people. Your Savior is born today in David's city. This is a sign for you. You will find a newborn baby wrapped snugly and lying in a manger." Suddenly, a great assembly of the heavenly forces was with the angel, singing praises. They sang, "Glory to God in the heaven, and on earth, peace."
It came upon the midnight clear, that glorious song of old, from angels bending near the earth to touch their harps of gold. Peace on the earth to all goodwill, from heaven the news we bring. Welcome, solemn stillness reign, to hear the angels sing. Still through the golden skies they come, with peaceful wings unfurled, and still their heavenly music floats o'er all the weary world. Above its sad and lowly plains, they bend on hovering wing, and ever o'er its Bible sounds the blessed angels sing. For lo, the days are hastening on, by prophet laws foretold, and with the ever-circling years comes round the age of gold, when peace shall over all the earth its ancient splendors fling, and the whole world gives back the song which now the angels sing.
No one is ever really ready for Christmas. If we were really all prepared, if every gift we had contemplated had been obtained, if all the goodies our friends served were baked and cooled and stored just so, if each and every person we loved was gathered in celebration, if we never snapped at someone we care about, nor stopped short of being all that we could be, if our minds were 100% loving and our hearts were 100% generous, they truly would be ready. And truly, we would not need Christmas quite so much. So come, Christmas, most needed of seasons. Come with the reminder that love does not depend on perfection, but on willingness to risk connection. Come into the unready manger of our hearts, that we may feel the warmth of new life and give flesh to the promise of hope that cries to bring healing into our world. Come, Christmas. Come, love. Come, hope. Be born in our unready hearts on this silent and holy night.
Police officers know that crime never stops and the police department never closes. For the third straight year, I'd drawn the midnight shift duty for the holidays. I was in a state of self-pity. In that state, I patrolled the silent streets, unaware that the true spirit of Christmas would touch me that night. Christmas Eve turned bitterly cold and windy that year. Something called a bomb cyclone had come upon us, come upon the nation, come upon Cleveland, plunging us into a state of paralysis. Icy blasts dropped temperatures near zero. It had been a slow night with few calls for service and scarce radio traffic. Even the car-to-car channel remained unusually quiet. Nothing moved on the streets, and the crisp, crystalline quality of the night lent an edge of sharpness to the landscape. The dispatcher's voice reverberated throughout the car, shattering the silence. Charlie 182, suspicious person in front of Radio Shack, 2364 Main Street, described as a white male wearing a dark-colored shirt and blue jeans. I headed toward the business district several blocks away. On arrival, I recognized the man as a local transient named Frank. He was crouched in the doorway of the business, trying to take advantage of what little wind protection it offered. His ragged flannel shirt, threadbare blue jeans, and well-worn tennis shoes provided no protection from the elements, and he was obviously very cold. Pulling up to the curb, I got out of the car and approached him. "Frank," I said, "what are you doing out on a night like this? Why aren't you at the Salvation Army or somewhere where you can stay warm?" He looked at me and smiled wistfully. "It's Christmas, ain't it? Well, they ain't got no room at the inn. They're all full up. I got no place to go. Besides, ain't you got nothing better to do than to bother with me?" "No, Frank, actually, I don't," I said. "Tell you what, it's warm in my car. How about sitting in the back while I check with dispatch to see if they can find a place for you tonight?" "Okay," he replied, "but I'm telling you, everywhere's full up. You ain't gonna have no better luck than I did, but I wouldn't mind warming up as you try." Frank painfully stood and hobbled to my car, his arms still hugging his body. I patted him down and, finding no weapons, opened the back door of the car for him. I got in the front, slammed the door in the face of a renewed blast of Arctic air. Again, I silently cursed my luck at having to work another Christmas Eve, especially this cold and this miserable one. I called dispatch to ask the local shelters if anyone could take Frank in for the night. 10 minutes stretched into 15 minutes. It could only mean that they were having trouble locating a place. Then my thoughts were interrupted by dispatch. "Charlie 182, I've contacted all the local shelters and churches that are taking people, and all advised that they were full." A knowing voice from behind me said, "See, I told you it was a waste of time. Now let me out of here. I'll be on my way. I'll find something." He wasn't under arrest, so I had no legal right to detain him. I opened the back door of the patrol car to let him out and watched as he shuffled back to the sidewalk. Then a sudden movement caught my attention, followed immediately by the sound of shattering glass. Frank had thrown a rock through the plate glass window of the Radio Shack. Frank shuffled toward me. "Look what I just went and done. I broke that window, so I guess you're just gonna have to arrest me. Take me to jail." "Yeah, you're right," I said. "Come on, let's go." During the drive to the jail, Frank lapsed into his usual apologetic state after following one of his petty crimes. "I'm sorry for breaking that window back there," he said, "but I didn't have no choice. It's warm in jail, and they feed you." It was close to midnight. I knew the jail had already served dinner, and Frank would not get fed until the morning. No restaurants stayed open this late on Christmas Eve, but I knew of a convenience store that did. It wasn't much of a dinner, but I bought him 2 hot dogs, a large bag of potato chips, and a large cup of coffee, and Frank ate like a man possessed. As I sipped my cup of coffee, he devoured his meal. The combination of food and warmth worked their magic, and Frank's peaceful snores accompanied me for the remainder of the drive. On arrival at the jail, I escorted Frank inside, completed the booking process, and left him. On my way out, I approached Frank and the jailer, escorting him to his holding cell. Frank extended his hand and said, "Merry Christmas, Officer Smothers. Thank you for everything you've done." I smiled and said, "Merry Christmas, Frank. You're welcome." Thoughts of Frank rode shotgun with me for the rest of the night.
There were 6 hours remaining in my shift. 6 hours before I could go home to a hot breakfast, warm bed, and loving family. The next morning, I celebrated Christmas with my loved ones. Wrapping paper just littered the floor. Carols resounded throughout the house. A warm fire blazed in the hearth. Yet I couldn't stop thinking about Frank. He had been willing to commit a crime just so he could get a warm bed for the night. And I had been feeling sorry for myself because I had to work. I experienced a wave of guilt over my feelings of self-pity the night before. And silently, I thanked Frank for what he had unknowingly given me, the gift of gratitude for all that I have been blessed with. It was the best gift I received that year.
Angels we have heard on high, sweetly singing o'er the plains, and the mountains in reply, echoing their joyous strains. Gloria in excelsis Deo. Shepherds, why this jubilee? Why your joyous strains prolong? What the gladsome tidings be, which inspire your heavenly song? Gloria in excelsis Deo. In excelsis Deo. Come to Bethlehem and see him whose birth the angels sing. Come adore on bended knee, Christ the Lord, the newborn King. Gloria in excelsis Deo. Gloria in excelsis Deo.
The offering tonight will benefit the minister's discretionary fund, which is used to support members of this congregation in so many ways: to provide emergency assistance, to ensure that no one is left out of congregational activities because they might not be able to afford it, and to support initiatives and activities that help grow our community. It is life-giving, and when you add your gifts to it, you are truly making a difference. Please give generously. The offering will now be given and gratefully received.
On the last night of the Posadas, little Carlos could barely contain his excitement. He explained to his aunt, "Tomorrow, you will come with me, Nina. First, we will light our lanterns. Then, we will go carrying our candles to the last house of the Posada. We will take the statues of Mary and Joseph and place them in the manger at the church. Their journey will be over." And Carlos became quiet. "And then," said Aunt Nina, "you and the other children will each place a small gift before the manger." Carlos said nothing. "I know," said Nina, "we have not talked about your gift, but I know you have been thinking of it. Does it make you so unhappy that we have no shiny coins or beautiful flowers to give?" Carlos said nothing. Jesus was not a rich boy either, Carlos. He loves to run and play in the hills by his town, just as you do. Go out tomorrow and collect the small plant that grows near the rock you watch the stars from. That will be your gift. Carlos wanted to obey Nina's words, but it would be hard. These 8 nights of Posadas had made him so happy. He wanted his gift to show that happiness. He wanted his gift to shine. How could he give a king only a common plant, a simple weed people stepped over and ignored because it was everywhere? "The infant Jesus will understand," said Nina. Love makes small gifts special. Finally, it was Christmas Eve. Carlos lit 2 candles and placed them in the paper lanterns. He hung them on either side of the door. The lanterns swayed in the wind. Carlos then took Nina's arm to escort her to join the posada. In his other hand, he carried his gift, his small plant. The air was warmer, sweeter. The whole town of San Bernardo was aglow. Carlos stood in line holding his little plant. Some of the children carried roses, fruit. Others carried bread or cheese. Tears of shame slipped down Carlos's face. Such a small gift. But then something happened. One of Carlos's tears fell on the plant, and where it touched the green leaf, it made a red dot. A bright, beautiful, spreading red. Carlos looked at Nina. When he looked back at the plant in his hand, another tear fell away from his eye. His tears were making the whole leaf red. He looked up at Nina again. She smiled. When it was his turn, Carlos carefully placed his plant before the manger. Now the entire top of the plant had turned red, and it was the most beautiful gift. It would come to be known as a poinsettia. Outside, Carlos looked at his town of San Bernardo. He saw the colored lanterns dancing in the trees. Tonight, in his little town in Mexico, he saw that all the small plants, like the one he had given, had changed color. They were all like bright red stars. They too would light the way for the Christ child. The dancers started, slowly beating their rhythm by shaking gourds filled with seeds. As Carlos watched, he squeezed Nina's hand. She had been right again. Love is magic. Love does make small gifts special.
In the bleak midwinter, frosty wind made moan. Earth stood hard as iron, water like a stone. Snow had fallen, snow on snow, snow on snow. In the bleak midwinter, long ago. What can I give him, poor as I am? If I were a shepherd, I would bring a lamb. If I were a wise man, I would do my part. Yet what can I give him? Give my heart.
Whenever we feel pessimistic concerning the future of humanity on this troubled planet, we can always remember this, that with all our fears and failings, we have yet somehow managed to put the brightest of our festivals in the darkest part of the year. Not at midsummer, but at midwinter, we celebrate most universally our hope and joy. The hardihood of this festival, continuing as it has through many thousands of years, and rising stage by stage from primitive frenzy to pagan jubilation, and finally to the symbolism of Christian observance, gives us true cause for confidence and reassurance. When it is darkest, we celebrate the light. When the earth is most desolate, we carol our joy. When the harshest and bleakest of the seasons is upon us, we can turn to gentleness, kindness, and forbearance. And it is interesting to note that in legend upon legend and story after story, Christmas always begins not with daybreak and the coming of the morning, but at midnight. It was at midnight that the primitive observances began, or as near it as their reckoning could bring them. It was in the darkest hour of the night, not in the glow of the morning, that the shepherds of the legend heard the angels sing. And of course, the 3 wise men were guided not by the sun, but by a star. The legends have grown both beautiful and fanciful, yet they have never drifted out of the darkness into a premature daylight. They have always stayed close to the inner truth from which they draw their substance, the truth that we must find our faith, not in the daylight, but in the dark. If we are ever to come to the light of morning, we must carry our own light with us through the night. Yes, and not only so, but we must make our songs in the darkness too, and sing them first at midnight.
Now, let us light the Christmas candles we love so dearly, candles of joy wherein sadness disappears, candles of hope where despair hangs heavy with tears, candles of courage to lighten all our fears, candles of peace to calm the tempest of the years, candles of love to ease the burden of our cares, candles to inflame the heart with the grace and radiance of Christmas comfort and cheer. you go. Oh my God, you got sparkles. Okay. Yep. Yep.
Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright, round yon virgin mother and child, holy infant so tender and mild, sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in heavenly peace. Silent night, holy night, shepherds quake at the sight, glory stream from heaven afar, heavenly hosts sing hallelujah. Sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in heavenly peace. Silent night, holy night, child of God, love's pure light, radiant beams from thy holy face, with the dawn of redeeming grace. Sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in heavenly peace.
Let us now say together our chalice extinguishing words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry with us until we meet again. As we go out into Christmas Eve and the rest of the holiday season, take with you these words from Judith A. Lindbergh. It begins long before the first frost, somewhere between memory and reality. It touches us with compassion and whispers to us of hope. It tiptoes into our hearts with elation and opens our souls to faith Its name is Christmas, and we have yet to learn how to keep it close for more than this one brief shining moment. Someday, perhaps, with love. So may it be. Go in peace.